Okay, so you guys just walked in on us having a little technical issue here. Let me find Rob again and get him into the stream. I can't see him. Um, all right. Okay, there we go. I don't either. Yeah. Let me just get back to your screen.
And I live out in the country. And
Okay, all right, there we go. Oh man, the wonders of technology. All right. Okay, so everybody, welcome to episode number 312 of the Jeet Kune Dialogues. You know what was interesting? Usually I can say with so and so of so and so. With you, it's just your name. I don't even know where we would where and how we would describe you. But what you were just telling me about your Tai Chi master and what your Tai Chi master said about energy and the battery, repeat that for the crowd.
okay. When I was 16, we had a Aikido master.
Rob, can you get closer to your mic? Because
Can you hear me now on this thing?
yeah, your volume, it's still a little bit low.
Let's see if I can turn it up.
Yeah.
See if I can go to settings or something. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. That's better.
Okay. Yeah. When I was 16, Aikido master Dr. Kors, one of the only white guys that was a master from Japan in Aikido, was a librarian, and he introduced me to Liang Tik-shuk. And we helped bring him from China. He was a Tai Chi master, but he had been raised in Shaolin before that. And he got cancer of the liver, said that it gave him about like a year or so to live. And he says, forget you guys. And he says, I went to find good Tai Chi master. And so he started practicing Tai Chi, and the Tai Chi guy said, yeah, you screwed up your Chi, man. So he fixed it. He said, studying with him. So he gave up the Shaolin stuff. And so when I was like 16, I was talking to him about energy and Qigong, and he told me, Rob, practice this the proper way, Qigong stuff the way, because he says, then your body builds all this Qi like a battery. Yeah. And he says, when you get older, you'll be happy and be glad that you did this, because then you can live better and healthier with that energy from that battery. And I'm not kidding. I'm going to be 70 in a few weeks, and I'm telling you, I still have the same like waist size as 40 some years ago.
Wow.
So I do have some, traumatic injuries, but it's from fighting and everything else. Yeah. It's from having too much fun. But yeah. But no major problems,
You know what I have a hard time following what I guess I could call your martial art chronology, like where you started and what you went to in what order or what have you. Because last week when I was on with who was I talking to last week? Was it Nathan? I think was it Nathan? No, when we were doing the open mic, and you got into a conversation about Kuk Sulwan.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't think I recall that. I recall Du Wai and even Art White Wong, right? But okay, so if you can remember, right, give everybody that list of things that you have trained in.
Well, it never started out as a normal like martial arts school or anything. My grandfather was very I had a really incredible family, really big and loving. Sponsored people from other countries into America back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Uh-huh.
So the guy who was my Chinese godfather, Samuel Weijin, was brought here by my grandfather. So he lived with us for a little while when he was younger, and then he became kind of a bigwig in Chinatown, San Francisco and stuff. He also did that with a Korean guy and a Japanese guy.
Oh.
So they came and lived with us. So when I was a little kid, my uncle, who was Filipino, from Cebu, and
Yeah.
was in a Japanese prison war camp. Did Kali? Did he didn't call it that. He just called it fighting.
Okay. Okay.
Because I would ask him about the big shields and all the different knives, and he would explain stuff and talk to me about it. I'd have to make sure he had a few beers, and then he would really give me the good stuff. And so I was learning from these different guys because I just loved it. I just thought it was really cool. And my godfather, had given me some doors to old kung fu masters and that were kind of closed door at the time, but they would share with me and stuff, and it wouldn't be like any regular class. It'd be just kind of almost one-on-one for a long time with a lot of the guys. And then I met a guy who was special forces in Taiwan, American, when I was 10, and he was was working at the YMCA in La Mesa, California, in San Diego.
Uh-huh.
And Mr. Rogers, believe it or not. And he was a special forces, but he had an incredible background in Chinese martial arts. And he started teaching us. There was like 30 some kids, and it came down to only 3 of us because we'd actually spar and fight. And he's going, "Where'd you learn to do that?" He goes, "You're only punching once or twice." So he goes, "Let me teach you how to flow around somebody." So I was 10, and this guy's teaching me how to like just move around people, hitting them and taking them and, doing, locks, breaks, whatever I had to do. So I'm going, "Oh, this is cool," So then I met a guy who originally was a Tracy Kempo studio. And then he broke away, and that's how I met Duai, because he was more interested in different Chinese martial arts. So the 3 of us were doing Chinese Martial Arts Institute in a place called El Cajon. And so Duai lived with me for a while, but Duai introduced me to people like Ark and people like that. And I stayed with Duai for a long time because Ark, looks at me and goes, "I think Duai knows more about Kung Fu than any band I've ever known."
Wow.
And I went, "What? Whoa, okay." And he was scary, man. He was good combat martial arts. And so what we do is some really bizarre training. And it was always, either one-on-one or dark, closing down all the windows in the Kempo school, which is it didn't turn into a Chinese Ed Parker Kempo school. And that's when I met Jim Mitchell, who was with Parker. And if you look at some of the Parker's tapes of him doing forms, doing the forms, as Jim Mitchell and doing those forms, like, all the different short and long forms and stuff. And I was in a room sometimes during that. So was Parker Lenican from San Diego. And so, then I met him, but then I met the Polynesian guys, Tiny and those guys, Lima Lama guys. And I just loved fighting. And so I go down to San Diego Beach, and then I met some of the guys from the Black Karate Federation, Chicken Gabriel and these guys.
Yeah.
And I think I was just so like innocent that they're probably going, "Why does the cracker want to fight with us?" And I just like didn't care. So I started sparring, and then I kind of did pretty well with them. And they go, "Hey, man, we kind of like you." So then I started practicing. So I would just go wherever there was something happening, because martial arts back then was really kind of different than it is, as you know now,
Right.
in the 60s and stuff. So I tried Tong Soo Do for a while. I didn't like the militarization. I didn't like all that crap. I'm not really into the whole bowing and standing and all that. And to be honest with you, I want the respect. I'll show it, but I'm just not really, so I didn't really think about the Korean stuff for a long time until I saw Young Kyu or Kuk Suraman in Venice Beach, California.
Uh-huh.
And so I think I told you he was trying to paint a sign on his window, but he's doing it with electrical tape and cutting it with razor blades. And so we worked out some deal. Somehow he talked me into quitting my job, leaving my girlfriend, and moving to the studio. But the guy was so dynamically powerful, man. And I've never seen anything like this guy could move sometimes, and the things he could do. So I'm going,
Right.
I thought Korean stuff was kind of crappy. And I'm going, no, that's pretty cool.
Okay. Let me interject here. I got 2 questions for you, right?
Yeah, all right.
One, how did you get good at sparring? Were you just a natural? Did you have to work on it? And 2, why isn't Kuk Sul Wan more popular?
Because do you know much about Koreans and the way they deal with each other?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah, that might be something to look into. No one's better than the other guy. The other guy's always a better guy, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to a Korean studio, Master Taka Kim, he better than everybody. Okay. You go to Soyoung Kyu school, Taka Kim, he come from same damn village as me. He no good. You know, so these are guys that are all doing Kukso Wang, Kukso Haki, you know, so they're all offshoots of this. There's, you know, these different three main arts that came out of that area of Korea from villages, basically. So these guys are all sort of from like Byung-min, Kim Byung-min as Tiger Kim's brother.
Uh-huh.
So Tiger Kim was in LA and I met him, and Byung-min Kim was out here, and I used to practice with him for a while. And he saw my black man, he goes, "Oh, you high built a Soyoung Kyu?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, that guy really good." And I went, "Whoa." And I'm going, "That's very weird too." You know, so no, I think it's because of the way they do their politics and everything else, to be honest with you. I really don't know. And to tell you the truth, also, I think it's interesting to say this, because one of the things that made me stay with Tim Tackett and Bob Rimmer was because of this. I had learned Kuk Sool and I was high belt. What I didn't like is I didn't know how to bridge the gap from from punching somebody to being able to start doing bone breaking and tendon tearing in the hands and stuff. And it was like always clumsy.
Okay.
No other masters could show me it. I'm going, this is stupid, man. Well, you know, this is real great. You know, if you put your hand out there and let me grab it, or you grab my shirt, or, you know, all that beautiful spinning techniques. How do I put it together in a combat situation? You know, so it wasn't really doable too much until I met Bob and Tim. And then Bob and Tim kind of helped me bridge that gap.
Literally and figuratively?
Yeah, because it was the way they showed me how to see.
Now that's interesting. The way they showed you how to see reminds me of what Cass Magda said to me about Inasano teaching him how to learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because Y would say, he would go, "Oh, them guys are like a comic book." You know, when you have books and stuff. And I go, "Oh, look, I like the, you know, here's these guys are doing praying mantis." You know, I just, because of the stupid comic book. And I go, "Oh no." You know, so I go, "Oh, I want to," he go, "What do you want to practice?" And I would say, he knew so many systems and styles. He go, he did Wing Chun, he did everything. I name a style and he could do it. And he performed it right there. And I'm going, that's so awesome. So I said, "Oh, I wanted to learn Northern praying mantis." And so he would shut doors and we'd start praying mantis. But then he started saying, "Okay, that's no more BS. Let's do real Kung Fu combat." So then we started doing a different kind of training, man. And that's when I started learning about my own spatial dynamics and my own personal critical distance lines of my body parts and stuff, and how they meld into a fighting system, or how they meld into that other person's mandalic space. So if the guy is really big, you know, I have to blend my spatial context with him to be able to fight properly and still keep my. If I go outside of my own platonic solids, circles, squares, and pyramids that are built off my own body, then I lose all my strength. I go off balance. I don't have the dynamic snap and ability that I need to perform correctly. So I see a lot of people taking too big of a step.
Mm-hmm. But how did you arrive at this knowledge and understanding on your own, or was this something from Duai also?
Both.
Or how did you end up there?
Because I loved it so much. I was so OCD with martial arts. I'd go home and practice. And I mean, my family said, "He's still out there smashing stuff."
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would do it all day long, all night long. And I only slept 4 or 5 hours a night anyway. So I'd be always practicing and stuff, or doing magic or mime or something of that nature, or puppetry, because I found they all kind of go into the same kind of engineering and mind concepts and stuff like that, and drawing and art. So, and music, playing drums. So, yeah, both though. he would kind of like guide me in a certain way, and he would show me. So what I liked about him and Ed Parker and those guys is that they just wouldn't tell you. They could show you. And then with Master Parker, one time he explained to me his blocking, why he blocks the way he does. And other guys would say things and say, "Oh, you have to do, you do your inward block." So I go, okay. He go. So guys they do this, and so he goes, "Why are you doing it this way?" So he says, "A point within the circle." And he goes, like any mammal, everything that's bad to get hurt is your huevos, your throat, your eyes. So all mammals do this when they curl up and they're protecting.
Mm-hmm.
He says, so why not come from there first? If you start to learn to build confidence, will come from the point within the circle. Then your motions, if they're built on proper geometrics, then they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
When your arm starts going past a 90, like most martial arts, then your arm gets folded. You can't maintain that dynamic sense.
Mm-hmm.
So we would work on all these little tiny things, and then he would say, "Okay, now how you feel?" I feel, "Oh man, I feel good." Then he goes, "Okay, let's spar." And I go, "Oh crap!" So
Right.
then it started working, and in some kind of motion, he'd come at me, and I would just do the proper measure of footwork.
Yeah.
The proper distance in my footwork, proper motion and keeping my dynamic strength and my speed, whether it's a snapping whipping or a thrusting strike, and the sensitivity to be able to change both up at the very end. I don't make a weapon until I just almost touch the body or anything, and then the weapon gets made. Mm-hmm. So that means I can change the dynamics of a snap or a thrust at that moment. You shift a little bit and I hit a rib, I'll snap it. You shift a little bit, it's your stomach, I'll thrust through you. Like a waterbed, I'll get your body to vibrate. So we started doing that. Then I met Joe Louis when I was about maybe 16, 17 or something. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
He comes spar with Jim Mitchell and those guys, Kempo guys.
Right.
And so it was fun because at 13, I was around 6'2", 170. And so I was kind of big. And I wear a 22 ring. So I had big mitts, And so we only had one headgear we're fighting in, and Joe's smacking me on the head, man. But what was really cool about it is that his ability to explain the really fine things in sparring was what I really liked. And he would do some really well, he took me off, gave me a piece of paper, it was typed up, and he said Bruce had given it to him. And there was like 20 some principles on it, like broken rhythm, like using shortened arc theory, stuff. So when shortened arc theory, like when you're doing almost like when you're doing the bong saw into a punch, so you've got this long arc, which is your whole arm. Mm-hmm. And then that's where the mandala starts at the first circle is then we bend it in. So it bends like right there. So you get your body motion, but then that arm bends and it becomes twice as fast as the rest of the motion. It has to be, it's physics. So we'd work on physics of striking and stuff. So that's kind of how, but yeah, I used to fight almost every day growing up too.
So Joe Louis was not just a big bruiser. The guy had a brain.
No, man, the guy was really, really smart, and he could explain things to you.
Nice.
Because he was, like I said, he was hitting me in the head. We only had one head guard, put it on him, and he goes, okay. And I started hitting because he kind of pissed me off because he didn't know I was so young.
Uh-huh.
Thought I was like in my 20s or something.
Uh-huh.
So he's kind of messing with me and calling me some funny names and stuff. And I'm like pretty young. I'm going, this guy's making me mad. So I started hitting him with Du Wise kind of internal punches that he showed me. And I caught him in the head, and Joe jumps back, takes the headgear, throws it on the ground. And he goes, what the hell's wrong with you, kid? He goes, come here. He goes, let me see your hands. And I show my hands. He goes, what the? He goes, look at the mitts on this kid. I told him how old I was, and he goes, shit. Like that. So, he always came to spar, and Teddy Lukai would come in. Teddy that guy was slick. I couldn't catch up to him.
Ah.
I was young.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was only a few years after that, but when he was kind of doing his new thing, that was a stick boxing.
The stick boxing, right? Yeah.
I hated that the first time. I had a hard, he was like moving around me, and I started realizing that him and Mark Stewart and those guys that were with Ted Wong guys,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they got good footwork, man. You know, it's built for guys like that, especially like, and that was another thing. I'm a bigger guy. So when I met Bob Rimmer, his way of doing stuff was more my kind of way, you know,
Right. Yeah.
to blast through in and stuff. So, um, you know, I don't know. But when I met Tim and Bob, you know, it's just, there was things Bob would do. They're just going, wait a second. he's like, he's older than I am right now at that time. And I'm going, dang, man, you know, I definitely would not want to have had to have sparred that guy when he was in his 30s or 40s.
Right. Yeah.
So it would be
Tackett put up a picture of Bremer that I had never seen, and he said that he had incredible balance and coordination. Yeah.
Oh, he had
He was such a big guy, though.
Oh no, he was the one that was teaching Bruce how to do trampoline stuff.
True, right.
That made Bruce really mad because Bob could do all that stuff. And then Bob had a unicycle, was one of those tall, weird circles.
Yeah.
Bob would get right on and just Bruce would never do it. Made him so mad.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
A couple of times he goes, you know, Bruce would give me that look, you know, and he'd come up and he'd kind of go, and Bob goes, you know, I got real scared.
Yeah.
And when Bob say that, you're like going, oh, you know, he didn't BS.
Wow.
And Bob hated teaching large classes. He really liked kind of one-on-one kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because, you know, I look, I don't fault anybody who has almost a natural aversion to this structured teaching thing, because it really does take away from what I think is the true essence, you know, because the true, it's like this conversation between the two of us, right, was decided on a week ago because you said some things. I took snapshots of your comments, right? We haven't even gotten to it at all, but it's not necessary, because all it did was kind of provide a template for my brain to have a conversation with you. So it's a structure of no structure.
One time when I first went to Tackett's school, to this garage with Rick Wetzel, he took me, he tried to get me to go there for about a year and a half, 2 years. I was like, I don't, you know, I've been doing martial arts. I got a lot of stuff to do. I don't know. You know, it's like, what am I going to do there? Go show off? I never do that. Never did. So anyway, I go there, and Dennis Blue and Jeremy, and I think it was Louis or something. We were talking about something, and Louis threw a punch at me, and I just did it on Sao, but I did it grounding the way Duai showed me. And because of that, I don't have to think whether I'm ready or not. I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to think if I have to prepare my body. Do I drop myself in the root? You know, if I have to do that, I still got a lot of work to do. So I don't have to do that now, because the way I've used my different, you know, mind concepts and stuff I've learned, or whatever I've gotten. Everybody's different. Everybody's going to have a different way of approaching, which is really, that's why it's an art, you know. That's awesome, you know. So I remember I just dropped my weight into the ground the way I was talking to you one time about how I sometimes put it like up to 18 feet in the ground. I just visualize that, and it locks me into the earth, you know. And I did that, and I just went and did it on Sao, you know, like that. And his whole body jerked. You know, he's been doing JKD and stuff. His whole body jerked. He almost like fell to the left, like, and fell to his knee. And I hardly moved. What it was is that I was dropping my dynamic, keeping my dynamic space, doing principles correctly that I've been trained so much to do that I can feel them, because I know how to make them work, instead of just thinking that someday I'm going to get those.
Mm-hmm.
that's a bullshit, man. You can do it right away. You can do it in seconds if you're taught how to get there. And so once you do that, then all I have to think about is when do I do it?
Right.
So do I do it before he's moving? Do I do it become a first strike guy? Am I become a second strike guy? Do I lock him in? What do I do? So um, it's a different kind of feel, but it works so good with the JKD stuff that I've learned over all these many years. Because I didn't know that Joe was doing stuff with Bruce. I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
So I was learning from guys that were actually messing with Bruce at times. And I'm going, oh, that seems really familiar when I read Bruce's books or writings. I go, hey, wait a second.
Yeah.
Joe Louis told me that. That kind of stuff. So I just would absorb it. And
do you have this organized anywhere?
I'm actually doing that right. What I'm doing is I'm putting in a large format workbook with all my illustrations.
Is there a name for it?
Yeah. No, because I don't know. There's not for anything. It's for a person to develop their own individual body, mind, and spirit. So again, what is body, mind, and spirit? Well, a lot of people can tell you what it is. Can you show me actuation of those three? I want to see actuation in motion. I want to see you do it. It's wonderful, and I'm glad there's guys with 10th degree black belt stuff. Show me the freaking activation of body, mind, and spirit. If you can't do it, then I need to go into widen my field, deepen my ocean, heighten my rocket to the sky, because something's not right.
Yeah.
And so that's why I would start working on that kind of stuff. So to me, what I came up for me was imagination, intuition, and intelligence. Because imagination, like Tesla and those guys said, I'd rather have my imagination than my intelligence anytime. So did Einstein.
Mm-hmm.
So the imagination is not bullshit. That's, you just use your mental concept. Like I practice doing thumb sao, and what I do is I put my hand out, but I take where the tip of my middle finger is. I've been working on it for about 10 or more years now, where I learned to just turn my finger right on the very tip only. So what I do is I put my hand out like a Bill G, and I put it against the wall real lightly, and I just start turning my hand, and I start feeling every single little muscle in my arm and shoulder and neck, and then run it down where I can do that. I can just put my finger almost right on you and go and do a Bill G and just send you flying. And it can go reverse too, so it can immediately just shift right back into a thumb sao.
Right.
I start practicing little tiny things that need to be done at the end. So instead of like worrying about a punch coming out, do I and Ed Parker show me how to make sure that Parker would do this all the time. And Bob told me that Bruce would let you hit him just to the point where he could just feel you touching him.
Yeah.
And then he would just knock you.
Right.
And I'm going, dang, I like that. Because then you're not out, brim of fire, man. You're right there.
Right.
And so that means you're moving. That means you're in a dynamic. That means no stance is strong. Stance is a bad word. They're all transitory motion.
Yeah.
So I hate that word. And so if you can, in Taekwondo, so I had to take guys to Taekwondo. I was a I was an upper level Taekwondo coach for Olympics. Hate Taekwondo really that much. I really don't like that dancing stuff, but I took young men there, and it was really cool. We had a great time. And one of the things that my guys were doing were they were able to do a front kick or a front turn kick right when the guys were kicking, and they were intercepting. But it wasn't because they were using some JKD knowledge. They didn't even really know that's what it was.
Yeah.
What they did is I noticed that So Young Kyu, when he would stand with his 2 feet together, facing you, and he'd say, drop into a back stance, right? Most people just put their foot back and drop their weight onto it. And I'm going, well, that's pretty clumsy. And plus, if I'm moving at you and you're going to just step back, 3 feet and drop your weight into it, you're kind of setting yourself right there for me, especially if I know how to enter well. So, he would did it to me, and before I could even get my knee to upper level to be able to throw the kick out, he kicked me right in the throat almost. So young kid, and I go, how the hell is he doing that? So what it was is when he was stepping back, he wasn't putting his weight at all in the back. He just moved his foot back, and he'd be on the balls of that rear foot. And as soon as you come at him, he would just drop it and turn it so he was in a back stance position, but he would drop his weight on it right as you came at him, and that front leg just went right up.
Right.
And I went, man, come on.
Yeah.
So, it's just really stupid, simple things like that I pick up from each guy, and Jimmy H. Wu, when I was doing Sun Tzu in Los Angeles, because I was going from one, I told you, I kept changing my names and stuff like you get at different places. And so that's kind of ridiculous. I'm probably a good thing they didn't find out. And Jimmy H. Wu, I love that guy, man. I'd go to tournament. He would just, it was like a point tournament, and Jimmy would go in there and he would just like, kaboom, knock the guy out. They disqualify him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, damn, Jimmy H. Wu. And he'd go like this. He'd just walk out with his fist up. I go, dang, Jimmy. He had the biggest latissimus dorsi muscles I've ever seen in my life. They were huge.
Yeah.
He'd sit there and do rowing exercises like this with his body and showed me how he did them. But Sun Tzu worked really good too if you moved and you're moving in your dynamic spheric space, or your dynamic, how would I say it, mandalic space, your own personal mandala built on your side.
Yeah.
So Bak Sam Kong, we're doing white crane. And I noticed when white crane, his arms are out like this. And all of a sudden, he would step, but his arm would go like this, right? So if you punched, he could turn as he did this long arm. He didn't care what style you were. His arm would just, it would do the bend right to the fulcrum, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when he did it, because you were aiming at the center, he'd just catch it right here, and he turned his body. His elbow would literally hit the back of your elbow and just literally almost break your damn arm. One simple move of turning his body. So that's when I started seeing all those different pyramids, circles, and squares. And you drop that same mandala on the floor, and now you have the same, plus sign, minus sign. Now you have pyramid, circles, squares. That's very Kali, very.
I was just going to say that. That sounds very Kali and Silat-like.
That's why my uncle showed that to me. He put the sticks on the ground, and then when I saw that with Parker, I went, aha. And then I saw it with Duwai, I go, aha. And then I start, because I'm an artist and a sculptor, I started making it 3D.
Right.
And then he goes, where did you get that? And I said, Duwai. I went home because you told me, and I said, I kept thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking. So I said, okay, 2D bullshit. My arm move everywhere. So I said, that would do, I would say, why you do like that? He goes, sometimes, those are books like a comic book. Everybody's teaching you the form. He go, I think a disco dancing better. And in a way, he was right,
Yeah.
And so once those motions, even with Parker, so Ed Parker tells me, everybody's doing upper blocks different. And I'm going, upper blocks are kind of stupid. Roof block, I get, like the Filipino roof blocks with the sticks and stuff. I get those. But I'm not too sure about these karate upper block things. I never thought they were really that good of a block in any system I studied. I just thought, well, that's kind of a way, and you're putting your arm up there. I don't know. That's kind of weird. I'd rather just duck and hit him in the balls or something, So I don't know. They make you do it. So Parker goes, I like what you're doing. He goes, let me show you something. I go, what? And he goes, so Parker's hands were huge. They're like hams. And he was like, you hit him and it felt like you're touching a concrete pole. Mm-hmm. It was cool. So he goes, center line, Rob. He goes, piece of plexiglass this way. He says, I bring my hand up, I thread the needle. From where? He practiced with Duwai. He practiced with, all the temple guys and stuff over in Hawaii. So he had a lot of these Chinese principles. Mm-hmm. And he saw me doing it, and he would expound on it for me. But he wouldn't do it unless you had it, and you were showing progression towards something.
Right.
He would step in, and not he would just tell you, "Go practice. Hey, brother, go practice."
Mm.
You know, if you were walking with something and he saw you, go, come here, hey, brother, come here. You know, so he goes, thread the needle. He goes, as the needle gets threaded, the arm then turns. Dude, I started doing my upper blocks that way. I could get almost every single one of them that came at me that way. The other upper blocks, they would slip through, they'd grab me, they'd try to lob anything. These, they're very, very specific and kind of sensitive, driven, almost like a Chi style in their own way.
Yeah.
El Comun, when I studied that with John Rosé, it's a very large system. It has Chi style, but it's very large. People don't think they always think Chi style is just Wing Chun.
Yeah.
It's not. But anyway,
Rob, what did all of this realization and recognition of these principles, what did it do to your brain?
You know, it's funny because I started, I taught military, I was a bouncer, a top bouncer in LA and a bodyguard for the DuPonts and some other stuff. And so I don't like violence and I don't like weapons like guns and stuff or anything, but I really like people. I care. And I really don't want anybody hurt. And so I wanted to be really good at this because I thought not only was it a cool art, and I saw the depth of it because of the other arts I did growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the depth of the art in this. And I just go, man, I liked fighting. And I fought almost every day of my life growing up. And I'm thinking, I might as well just get good at this. It's fun if I can make this into an art. And then the whole thing with like the Kung Fu TV series, believe it, just that kind of stuff. I'm going, yeah, man, that's exactly right there. Why I'm still going to keep doing it. You know, that's who I really am. You know, and I've pretty much been more of a booty type mind than anything. But what it did, I started noticing. I went through a lot of bad crap when I was younger. I went through drugs and all kinds of stuff. Man, it was bad. You know, I grew up in a really bad part of California, right on the Mexican border. You know, bikers, drugs, you know, American Indians, everything was just hell. And wasn't easy. And there was a certain point where I started to become confident in the way my body could move and what it could do. And so I never had to worry about that. I didn't have to worry whether when I threw a Phoenix Eye fist, whether it was going to hit properly or anything, because I had worked so much on it, you know. Do I have me breaking ribs and sides of beef with it and tearing meat off, you know, and stuff like that. So I knew that those things would work. Then I started putting it in motion. But then came a period in time where it used to be, oh crap, my girlfriend's watching. I'm in a bar and we're going to get in a fight. What is she going to do? You know, all that crap that comes to you. Or, there's three guys walking up behind me. They're friends of, you know, what's going to happen in the future when I fight this guy? They're all going to jump, you know, that crap's, you know, starts coming around you.
Yeah.
After I found my spatial area, and I knew as soon as you walked into my spatial realm, I had something dynamic to give you. So once I did that, then I was so much in the now. I didn't have to worry about technique. I didn't have to worry about shit. I didn't have to worry about grounding. I didn't have to worry about rooting. I didn't have to worry about dynamic strength. I didn't have to worry about breath. I didn't have to worry about any of it. All I had to do was just be there now. Pretty soon, there was no more worrying about some stupid jerks and their friends. Nobody thinking about my knucklehead girlfriend in the background. Who cares? You know, right now, I'm right here with you. Now I can tell your energy. I see your energy. I can feel it. I got to the point where I can stop a lot of people's punches, especially not trained, you know, really well trained. But most people throw their chi ahead of their punches. And if you block the chi, you don't have to block the punch. You're already kind of there. And so that's what I do is I kind of ghost people. You know, so I do the ghost sign, and then I knew ventriloquism and stuff. So as a bouncer, I go, hey, what? And they turn around.
No way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I even had flash balls and stuff for magic. You know, you throw them on the ground, they explode.
That's freaking cool.
I used everything that I could.
Right.
Hey, 5 guys are running. You throw a bunch of flash balls at them. All of a sudden they stop and you kick one of the nuts, pick him up, throw them on the others. They go. I want to go have a beer now.
Yeah. Where do you have any idea if Bruce Lee was into any of this stuff that you've been talking about And if he was, did he get to any level with it? You have any idea? Have you ever heard of any
Man,
of that?
I think he was, I have kind of like, I had supposedly Asperger's growing up. I used to stutter and rock until high school and stuff, even. And so this kind of stuff really helped me kind of not have to be that weirded out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to say, oh, I am pretty dynamic. And at each level started going out. So I'm thinking Bruce must have had this really incredible ability. I've never been fooled by one magician in my life. I started making magic tricks when I was 5, 6 years old. I could watch him on TV and tell everybody, I know what he's doing. My family, you're dumb. I go in my bedroom, I come out, and I could do it. And they're going, what in the hell? So I grew up doing mime and magic too.
Right.
Mime I did because I was going, man, this is perfect for martial arts. Mime, you're learning the 9 section parts of your body to make them move separately and in their own way. So you can do all the weird different things and really sell something. So if you're doing something like magic or something, what's the worst thing you can do is when you put it in this hand is drop that hand and go, ha ha. So the real thing to do is to put it in there and go, oh, and you push and you make it look. So you learn misdirection. And Bruce did magic.
Right.
You don't think he used his magic? You don't think he used that psychological concept? Absolutely. He uses dancing psychological concepts, those mental drives behind them. And so I think that as he got older, I think he would have been so dang dangerous and so dangerously effective that it would have been hard to see what he was even doing. I really believe that. I really believe that you could walk past him and he would probably just
yeah.
Crap, what the hell is that? I think it would have gone to a whole level that we would have never seen, because I've seen it in other masters who didn't have, I think, the drive or the intelligence of Bruce, maybe.
Right.
I mean, he was phenomenal. And the things Bob Bremer even told me and stuff, I was going, he was an incredible, guy.
So when you, well, not when, right? But if you were, how sometimes we get, we have the discussions, and what I have identified is that a lot of people put their wishes and hopes on Bruce Lee. They don't look at, you know what I mean? They don't look at what Bruce Lee himself did and then imagine him continuing in that vein. You know what I mean?
Okay, so Dwight, now you kind of like opened a little sore spot on me. I don't really like all that crap because, number one, that's not how it was served to me by the different people working with him, and also by Danny, even, because Danny, he kind of remembered I was on a flight, and he kind of remembered once I said who I was with. He goes, "Oh, okay." And Ole Pittman, we had showed him one of Duwai's Phoenix Eye techniques, where you smack the pelvis and crack the pelvis when you drop them.
Yeah.
And so we'd punch your pelvis and just knock you right to the ground with the pelvis so I could break it. Then take you. Why screw around with punching in the gut? I'll just pop in the pubic bone. So Danny and I were talking about that, and Bruce had come to the backyard before he left, Danny's backyard, and said that he didn't want anybody really teaching under his name and stuff, and that he was closing school and stuff. And he asked us, we're all Kempo guys under Parker, if we would keep our word. And do you know that all 6 of us had kept our word? All 6 of the guys were there, not one of us. And so I don't really like to say it, because I think Junban and Jeet Kune Do, and it's what it is and how it's used, because it's not just a thing where you're just dancing, sitting there doing dance moves. You're participating, you're flowing, with another person, and learning to use those skills and how to make it economical and work and stuff. But I really feel like Jeet Kune Do was his personal expression. And so it's hard for me to say that that's exactly what I'm practicing. But then again, I don't really have anything I practice anyway. I just kind of move now.
Right. Yeah.
I don't even know what to say because,
Yeah.
Tim Taka is he was very kind to me and said, I've always considered one of our instructor stuff. I said, okay, but I don't have any paper from him or anybody because that wasn't my thrust.
Right.
Really, so what am I going to do? Walk in with a black belt and a piece of paper and go, let's start it. Oh.
Yeah.
And I was like, no.
But no, so that's why I told you in the beginning before we went live, I didn't have anything to put up for you other than I'm going to be talking with Rob Roy MacGregor.
And I think
of anything,
I think that I was probably practicing some form of Bruce's art passed down to like Joe Lewis and those guys, a long time ago. And yeah, I could have, I went to Danny's school because I was teaching for Sayong Q down the road on Venice Boulevard by the high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I had painted these beautiful murals of guys kicking on the walls and all this crap. It was really cool. And his Kuk Sul was so dynamic that all the long kicks were pretty much BS. He had a kicking style of just short kicks alone that he says Taekwondo guys never learn. He goes, I don't know why. He goes, they're important.
Yeah.
So I was learning all these weird Kuk Sul things where you learn to just snap a bone. I go out to a tree and I find the tree limbs and I'd reach out and snap with 2 fingers and start snapping limbs and get bigger and bigger limbs until I could do it so fast that if you reached out with me with your finger, I could snap your fingers and break them.
Yeah.
So then I could also tear the muscles. So that's why I started learning anatomy when I was young. And I was a body work. I did rolfing. But I know anatomy real well, and I know how to get to those myofascial structures which is interesting too, because I worked with some JKD guys and we were doing they do a lapsao or something, and all of a sudden you see them kind of shake and they go like that. Felt like it went right up my arm. I said, yeah, why am I going to stop my chi at your grab? I don't do that. I'm going to put my chi right up your myofascial structures, right into your body, into your core. So everything I do goes to the core, no matter what.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a twist. I don't care if it's a kick. I don't care if I spit. I don't care if I hit you in the head. I don't care if I throw a pencil at you.
Yeah.
It's going to go to the core.
What? Stay on that tendon tearing stuff for a second.
Sure.
Is there a particular animal system in a kung fu style that specializes as such?
There's Chi Na. No, Chi Na. Breaking, bone breaking and muscle tearing. Mm-hmm. They have it in Tai Chi. They have it in all the different, deep kung fu systems. Even like when Duwai was teaching me White Eyebrow, White Tiger, there's a lot of those in there. And even when people, how people do the keto wristing and they have your arm locked out and they're pushing at your elbow. I always thought that was kind of weird because if the guy was kind of a big, kind of not flexible, it worked okay. Try doing it to a skinny little girl or some skinny dude, man. That's kind of kind of guy built like you. I hate to say it. It's not easy to do them. Yeah. They kind of can roll out of them.
Yeah.
So I said to Sayong Q, so why? And of course, I never asked him why I shouldn't have. For years, I kept asking him why, and he would do it on me. And I kind of liked it, but it hurt. Well, he showed me that behind here on the tendon, he knew the muscle structure where the tendon, is attaching. Instead of just pushing your hand there, we use, we learn to. I drive my car just by this right here all the time. Mm-hmm. So we saw right through the tendon. When you start sawing tendons and joints, there's no way to get out of that tendon hole.
Yeah.
You've displaced the tendon, number one, and then you've shifted the energy into the belly of the muscle of the myofascial structure. Because that tendon can only take so much, but it's being that it's like a honeycomb structure. Muscle tissue itself is like wet jello. It'll pour right through your fingers it's horrible. What holds it together is that honeycomb structure, that white film or bluish film you see on chicken when you pull the skin off the top. That's myofascial tissue. So the honeycomb structure of the tissue is what holds that muscle tissue together. So without myofascial tissue or tendon, which when they come down, they terminate, they make into tendons or aponeuroses or retinaculums and all those different things. And without those, you have no muscles at all. They just kind of just blobby, So that's why when you have a big blobby muscle, especially the big strong guys, I love it, man. You got thighs, I'm going to thrust a punch or a kick into that thigh, into that muscle structure. It's going to vibrate. So Duai showed me how to use vibrational techniques of striking. So we practice hitting things and causing vibrational strikes and learning how to push energy through so that my friend Mark Stevenson, who I've tried with since we were like 18, we were real young, we were full of it. I used to put a guy's stomach on the other side of a wood door, say, like an oak door. And I could slap the other side with an open palm, and I could make your whole stomach red with a palm shape. And so Duai started showing me how to drive cheat and using the striking. And we spent so much time doing that. And he goes, okay, now you can hit. Let's learn how to move your feet. I was like, more stuff.
Wow. Right. Yeah. So
Bob did say to me, he goes, hey, Rob, show me some of that Cook Soul stuff. He goes, Bruce would have loved this. And I think that at that time, I think Bruce would have liked it because this is the kind of stuff that's so slick. You don't see it, man.
Yeah.
You'll see a guy come in, but I'm here going on your hands and joints. And, I'll put them into a complete flow where Tim Gillette out in Rhode Island, you should have him on the show. He's an awesome dude, man. And Alan, and we were doing some of those things, and I threw Tim's about 200 and some pounds, and he goes over tag, he goes, shit, that guy, I threw him through the air, and we put him into some Cook Soul walks on the ground and stuff, and Tim Tackett, he goes, hey, that guy's for real, and he goes, I told you he was an asshole. Tim. So, gee, thanks, Tim. Yeah, so, no, so I guess my background's really deep, but I've never really cared about carrying on anybody else's stuff, because if I can't use my form of body, mind, spirit, my form of imagination, intuition, and intelligence, then what am I doing? I don't want to be a copycat. I don't want to move around like Danny. I don't want to move around like Bruce. I can't. Right. I'm not built like that.
Yep.
He had some muscle fibers and stuff that, I can't go down to 150 pounds. I would look like I have AIDS. I might be able to move fast, but it'd be a one-time thing. I'd break in half, so I had to take on a different aspect. Like when you look at Eric Paulson, I mean, that guy's a beast, and it's like that art he's doing is perfect for him.
Right.
For his body build and everything, who he is,
Yeah.
Like G. Anthony and you have the long muscles like myself. And so one of the things I liked about G. Anthony that Duai would teach me is go, why you only throw one damn punch?
Uh-huh.
Well, you only told me throw the punch. He goes, yeah, but only one punch. Why? Took me a while to figure out what he meant. So he started teaching me how to strike, and strike shoulder, and then back to the elbow, palm, and rake in. And so I started practicing to the point now where when I put my hand out, I'm going to be hitting you with all kinds of stuff and tearing you up and ripping you.
Right.
And once I get my hands on, they're big enough. I used to pop raw potatoes with my hands. I'm gonna hand you some skin. You get me in a fight, you can hit me. You might even be able to kick me and bite me, but I'm gonna hand you some skin. And usually that stops the fight pretty fast.
Yeah. G talks about orbital. So I do my level best to preserve his sanity because he gets so frustrated between what they call in TCF, they call it percussive striking.
Okay.
So all the jab, cross, hook, uppercut, whatever, versus what they practice, which is orbital striking. Okay. So I said, gee, stop. Here's what you have to realize. Those guys are punching.
Yeah,
You are striking.
exactly.
You see? Right? But he's hard-headed. So every day he's like, look at this moron. I'm like, right, because he's punching, you teach striking.
So there's two major kinds of striking, I would say then. In the way you deliver them, either thrusting or snapping whipping, basically, or a curve within the straight or a straight within the curve. So why would you thrust something, or why would you snapping whip something? So he's got some beautiful snapping whipping strikes and stuff. I'd be interested in seeing how they do against a soft target, like a thick muscle body, like the muscles on the back of your leg or your stomach, if you're good size and stuff. Because if you hit a waterbed with a snapping whipping strike, what happens? It goes, because all the mass absorbs it.
Mm-hmm.
If you jump up in the air and you land on the damn thing, it goes, right? So Dewey said, need to learn how to thrust through all soft target and how to snapping whipping on everything bony and like that. So anything that's going to hit your jaw, anything like even on the collarbone, I had to stop doing this as a bouncer. I could just put my fingers on your top of your shoulder and go, and it would snap your collarbone. And they wouldn't fight. They couldn't really put their arm up. So I got in a little bit of trouble with my boss. He goes, you got to stop popping collarbone, man. And so, yeah, but he was big and he was going to hurt somebody. So I learned fast. But anyway, so that's a snapping whipping strike. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be anything. It just has to be that percussive thing he's probably absolutely correct about that, but again, so now if you can do a thrusting technique, and so if I hit you in the thigh, it doesn't have to be fast. I have a kick that I used to put up my leg like this and hold it in a tournament, and they go, what the f is he doing? And I go, just drop it on your leg, and they'd throw up. I put it right on the vagus nerve.
Right.
And they go, and so Parker called it my puke kick. He goes, hey, brother, we got to see the puke kick tonight.
Yeah.
And so it worked, but
Right.
it wasn't fast. But what it hit vibrationally with a thrusting force.
Yeah.
So then Dewey goes, okay, so if you can do that, can you do that and change it up during motion and strike? And I go, what? And he goes, okay. Snappy whippy strike. And I'd go, and I'd start to do it, and he would shift a little bit, and it would hit his stomach and bounce off. And he'd go, no good. And so he started training me so I could get right to the target. If you shifted a little bit, I'd snap it. If you didn't, I'd bury it. And so once I started striking that way, not many people got through more than 4 or 5 strikes, because they just kind of what time, it kind of throws your body, and it's not because I'm any better than anybody else, but I know the dynamic way of striking vibrationally with the proper motion, not worried about whether or not I can do it, because I know I can do it.
Right.
I already have it down. I've already got all of my dynamic space and spheres right. If I'm using a pyramidal strike, the Roman soldiers, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, I was reading where they think now that he made that symbol of the man like this for Roman soldiers because it was basically of a fighting mandala. He was hired in the military all the time to do these things. And so when I went to Rome and stuff, I looked at their swords. Every single sword was a completely different size. You're like, oh, what? Nobody had to say, there wasn't no stamped out swords.
Right.
It turned out that there's an art called Elan, and it was Roman, built on a mandala. And I went, what the?
Huh.
I go, come on, man. I've been ripped off. No, I did the ripping off, I guess. So
yeah.
They would take the sword was built to the size of their body.
Right.
just like a supo, the thumb size, when you're doing Japanese arts, you can measure finger and supo size for to make your own weapons. Like a pair of nunchucks, for me, are from here to here, the traditional Japanese style, are almost 16 inches long.
Mhm.
That's pretty big, you know. So you learn to, so they get these swords that were made for their body size. So then
Interesting.
when they're throwing on the pyramid, this box that's around me, I have that's my shoulder width. My elbows make a from here's my fist and center, make a circle around them that's 3D. My arms make a 3D circle. I have pyramids that come off 3D off the front and off the top and the side. And I throw a strike this way, I'm off a pyramid. So I had two major strikes. It was the Cobra and the Phoenix. The Cobra, the strike would come in this way and then this way. The Phoenix, because it's bladed, would come on this side and slice, if that makes sense. So one is kind of going in and coming this way. The
Right.
other one's slicing and then slicing this way.
Yeah.
So you have two kinds of pyramid strikes. So pretty soon, these Roman soldiers had these things that were built to their mandalic body. You could pick up your sword blindfold and knew that ain't my damn sword in the middle of the dark. Sure, you got mine, you know.
Right.
So it was
Wow.
really awesome.
Wow.
So my Tai Chi teacher said, "Okay, now you've got these good guys you learn from and everything. You say, I can tell what you're going to do by the way you move your big toe." I go, "Really?" Well, he goes, "Do you read the Tai Chi poem?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "What's the first one?" Weilin Jin Jin. Insubstantial head, substantial down. So that means at the right here at where your hair does the turning back there,
Mm-hmm.
we see either a balloon or a sky hook, something that's kind of slow. That's just, you don't have to do it. You just see it in your head. Something that pulls that up. Now on the outside of your body, that's substantial. We let gravity go. So now that's dropping as it's being pulled. And it's in your head. You see an image. If you try to do it, it doesn't work. So what happens is I was watching my black belts. One day they'd be strong, the punches look good, and other days it look crappy. And I'm going, there's really not any difference in their motion. What's going on here? Well, they weren't rooted when they're moving, and their minds were at a different place. Their minds weren't using their own imagery
Right.
of who they are.
Right.
So I could see that, they'd be going, punch. And I said, come on, get your body, get your sacrum to be pulled down like there's something pulled like a tail or something, a big cape pulled down. Now you got your energy going up in your head. Now when you throw a punch, your body's there. It's already rooted.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't have to think about that when I do my techniques. It's already there. So whatever my body does, my body's rooted there.
Yeah.
And the power's there. The dynamic force is there, and I'm stable and I'm posted.
Yeah.
And so,
Man.
then I go, okay, how do you teach somebody to be relaxed while they're rooted and move? Pretend like you're sitting on top of a man cover that's got just full of holes. And there's a guy down there, he's got a spray gun, and it shoots hot lead. And you're standing on top like this, and he's going, so everything that's underneath, this is part of the Tai Chi poem. Everything is covered with weight. Underneath your huevos, underneath the back of your knee, anything that's down, even if your hands go this way, that's underneath here, is heavy with weight. Now your body becomes and you do the substantial and insubstantial. Now your body's in a place of freedom. Not only in freedom, but now you can move dynamically, quickly, with a lot of agility and not having to presuppose that motion. You can move any place you want to without thinking about it because you're just going to react.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was something Bruce had really good too. And I think that came a lot from fencing.
Ah.
Fencing, man, you got to do that. I did fencing. You have to be able to feel what that guy's doing, man.
Right.
It's a done deal.
Right.
So I think that learning to find your own way of finding your body space first, because then if I know that this is where my elbows go, Joe Louis used to tell me, I'm not afraid of your arm, except for right here to here. And at first, what he meant by that is, if he gets past that elbow and in, he's going to be working you.
Ah.
And if he's just slightly past that brim where that hand's like right here at you, he knows that he's got that space. If he's inside that arm, boom, you're going to get, somebody like me especially is going to like start gripping and wrapping, and
Right.
that's no fun, So he said the same about the knee to the foot. And he said that was something that he would practice with Bruce. And he would see that, he'd go, crap, damn it, I'm right in that damn bad space.
Yeah.
He says Bruce would put him right in there. He goes,
right.
How do you get out of that? So he worked hard at it.
Yeah.
And he would say things like that to me, and I was going, wow, that's cool, man. So I go home and just think about it.
This is incredible. Okay. I got two last questions for you. One, did you ever, in your time with Parker and maybe even Tracy Kempo, did you ever hear the name Paul Olivas?
I'm not really sure.
Okay.
Is he from the West Coast or?
Yes, originally, and then he moved to Maryland, I think.
Was he a Tracy boy at first, or
he was a Parker boy?
Okay.
And then I think he got with the Tracys. He was involved in opening up the studios and what have you. And see, so he is one of G. Anthony's teachers.
Oh, okay.
Right. So, but the only time that I have found the name Paul Olivas online is there's an online story about the Tracys. And that's where I found the name.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I was wondering, with somebody, with a background like yours and what have you. But Rob, man, the distressing thing, and I say that facetiously, the distressing thing about talking with you is that I realize how much there is still left to investigate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that I don't know that any of us are ever going to get there. No. Ron Reagan and I, when we were training today, we're talking about how Sifu Inasano, on seminar, when he's talking about like double stick stuff, he says that there's 4,000 and something combinations, or 4,000 and something whatever, and I go, there's more, and he goes, what? I go, yeah, there's more. All right. He goes, what do you mean? I go, because you can always add one.
Oh, I had a Wing Chun guy who I'm not going to mention names.
Wait, you're off camera a little bit.
Oh, I'm not going to mention names. A friend of mine, he's a pain in the ass, but he would just stand there and tell me Wing Chun's a complete art, and I go, Jesus Christ, man, stop telling me that crap. And I said, if you don't move, I'm going to drop you, man. And he goes, what? And I said, move. He wouldn't move, so I was just taking him down. And I said, what the? So I got frustrated. And then finally, one day, So Young Q had me running walls. And I used to be able to jump up, when I was younger, jump up in the air, upside down, and break bricks and stuff, and then land back on my feet, all that stuff. And I got really good at what I call using my chi stairs. And he hated this stuff. He goes, that is all bullshit. He's a lawyer, so he didn't believe any of it. He thinks it's all bullshit because nobody can explain it. That's something you can't explain that chi because you don't understand why you can't understand why it's not explained to you. So he didn't like that either. So I would stand in front of him. I said, listen, see the set of stairs in front here? And he goes, what are you talking about? I go, that set of chi stairs. And he goes, what the fuck? He always looked at me like I was crazy. I go, all I have to do is put my foot on that first step and I'm up in the air and I can come down with both knees and both elbows. And he's like, bullshit. And I did it. And he goes, so I did it over and over and over. He kept looking. He goes, it looks just like your foot is on a set. How can you do that? And I go, it's called imagination, intuition, and intelligence. It's the full actuation of body, mind, and spirit.
Right.
It's not a trick. It's just the way I move. And the way my psychological content for that motion, that in that sense, and not thinking about someday I'll be able to fly with chi, or you go, boy, I sure hope someday I understand what chi is. You know, you don't get it right now. You're in trouble doing this art. You know, because you can take a body, but if it's not alive, you can't put it up by a pool and stuff food and water down it and move its arms and throw it in the pool and hope it swims. Ain't nothing moving it. There's no chi, no internal essence, you know. So
Yeah.
I think people, there's two kinds of martial arts, you know, it seems to me. People who want to learn just to jump around and put a lot of pain and learn how to put a lot of pain. And then there's people who want to learn every deep facet of it they can so that they know it's just not a waste of being some macho guy or hurting people or anything, but it's something about how you can beat your own bullshit, man. You know, just like Bob and Tim told me.
Yeah.
Your job is to not really do much, but teach you how to see the bullshit.
Right. You know, I talked about that on Wednesday because I used the term the educated eye, which is something that, you know, I first heard from Tackett and Chris Kent in their book. And but then I said, to use a Bremerism, the educated eye is the BS detector.
That's right. You made it real simple. And
yeah.
But I would say, I tried to hit him with weapons. I'd be across the room and I would, you know, I practice flicking something this way, you know, so he couldn't really see it, like a magic trick. And he'd be moving, and all of a sudden his knee would just barely move, and the thing would go right past him. And I go,
wow.
And so finally I go, why? How come you can do? What is that? He goes, you're so stupid. And he always say that to me, like, oh, you're a black belt of pussy. You're stupid. You're no good. You're stupid. And I'm like, oh, shit, I am. So
wow.
I go, how? And he goes, because every cell of his body has an eye. He says, 10,000 eyes, one vision. So when you start training with psychological content to back up what you already have discovered with your own physical content and finding your spatial content, I know that my elbow won't go past that. So why am I going to try to hit a guy and I'm going to miss him, you know, if I don't know my own spatial content? So once I found that out, then I started finding it very easy to let my psychological content start growing out, and it gets more and more to where I'm almost more aware in the moment now as I'm older than I've ever been in my life. It seems to last for not just a few minutes, seems to be pretty much all the time. I can see stuff around me all the time that nobody sees. And it's just weird because I think I'm just in my moment, you know, and it's not anything special. It's just something that had to be trained.
Yeah.
A bit, you know, and each person has a different way, man. And
so okay, so that psychological training, so to speak, how does somebody do that on their own without having had the guidance that you've had?
I didn't really have a lot of guidance. They just tell me stuff, and I'd have to go home and figure it out. And I wouldn't get any more from them unless I came back with showing some kind of actualization of what they told me.
Right.
Because Parker even told me, he goes, you better be aware, man, how you do your motion.
Yeah.
Are you doing it upside down, backwards, forwards, what? And so one day I come, oh shit, so I come into a test. And I think, oh, I'm going to be smart. I learned how to do it not only on both sides, but both sides backwards. And so I get up there to do it, and then all of a sudden I see a black belt doing it. Doggone it. But I did it anyway. And Parker, there you go. He says, many emotion in that.
That's so funny because it was with G. Anthony and the TCF stuff that I mean, even though I had done like in CLOT training, you know, there's some exercises in which you do stuff going backwards.
Yeah.
But outside of that, like I've never done a Muay Thai drill, for example, going backwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of the JKD kickboxing stuff and what have you, it's not done going backwards. But in TCF, probably the first time I trained with G. Anthony, that's what we did. And not only do they make you ready for this? Not only do they make you do it going backwards, they make you do it in reverse.
Yep.
And I'm like, what?
I don't know if you ever heard this. Bob told me this once. He said, you know, I was watching Bruce move. There's two things I wanted to bring up. One, I'm really frustrated with why I don't see small phasic bent knee position hardly ever. Number one, that is probably one of the most core freaking things for a defensive motion than anything in that book is that proper bent knee phasic position. You're all elbow, assholes, and knees. There ain't nothing to hit. You know, and you can spring from there in any position you want. And I was watching him kick one time, and most of the time when you see Bruce is kicking, his leg is halfway through. It's like way up here already, sort of kind of, right? I saw him doing a kick where he was close to a Korean guy. He jumped in, but he was in small phasic bent knee position in that middle part. All of a sudden, that knee, instead of being out here and coming up, his knee was way in here.
Yeah.
So then it just went slap like a freaking sword snake, you know, it just struck right out and was back. And
Right.
there. And I showed it to a bunch of guys and they go, yeah, I don't understand what you're saying. But that small phasic bent knee position is really important. And I was talking to Bob about that. And he goes, I go, how did Bruce get so much power? And he goes, because when he kicked, he'd push off of you. And I go, I never really thought of that. So I started doing that. And every time I kick, I kind of give the imagination and the feeling that when I kick, I'm pushing off of your body.
Right.
It does work. And I'm going, oh, come on. It's just so simplistic. You know, so it could be that it helped me.
Right.
It could be that it doesn't help anybody else.
So is that, wait, let me make sure I got that. So is that like the kick is not pushing out, it's pulling back?
G. Anthony's right about one thing. Do I say, if you throw that punch at 99 miles an hour, it better come back 120.
Right.
You don't ever let anything go out and come back slower than they came out, which I always practice. And, you know, that way you get that motion.
Yeah.
And that's what you need. And then you learn your control. But yes. Yeah. Yeah. There's sort of a, it's almost like, okay, the Russians, I was watching these, how come the Russian gymnasts back in the 70s do like stretch and everything? We were trying to catch up to them.
Yeah.
When the Russians came out with a 2 to 10 year study on stretching. I read the whole book. It was incredible, man. So I'm going, no wonder they could do this. So what they were doing was warming up their legs, running or walking. Then afterwards, take a break. Then they would start throwing straight-legged raises and to the left, right? Well, the secret was not doing the legs. That would stretch out the legs, of course. The reason why most people can't do splits is because you have agonistic, antagonistic muscle. So the muscle that's stretching goes, okay. The muscle that pulls your leg back in goes, no, I don't like that. So it's really the muscle that you use to pull your leg back in that's fighting you with stretching.
Mm-hmm.
So they would put their hands in front like this. And as soon as your leg would come up, you would slam the top of your foot and push it down as hard as you could. Every single time. I was doing splits in 3 weeks. Never could get them for years. 3 weeks. So I started going, and when Bob said that, that's the first thing I thought about. Oh, crap. That stupid Russian thing where they're pushing their foot down. It sounded kind of goofy, but it's yin yang.
Right.
These are principles of yin and yang.
Right.
So Bob said, yeah, think about it. When you push a kicking, now you've got to use muscles to pull it back.
Mm-hmm.
If you whip it out there and you push it off of it, sort of, it's like you jump started that muscle. that's what brings that speed into it. And I'm going,
Yeah.
started doing it, it worked.
So, okay. Now I got another question for you then. What Bruce Lee showed in the movies. Why are you laughing? You- okay, answer my unasked question.
He told Bob he'd never throw nothing above the groin in the street.
Right.
In a fight, he said, "No, that's." He goes, "It looks real pretty." He goes, "No." Yeah, I've only been able to pull off a couple high kicks like that in real fights.
Yeah.
Usually a coup de grace or something.
Yeah.
No, they're hard to pull off unless the person's real out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any evidence of it, but I have been getting this feeling in recent times that, yeah, what he showed in the movies versus what he believed in and what he taught, right, to the serious people are not the same at all.
Nope.
At all.
No, that was I was talking to Bob about that, and he kind of agreed with me that that's why he thought he would like Cool Soul stuff too, is because it's really close and intimate.
Mm-hmm.
When you do those things, because a lot of people try to do like the wrist turning against the back of the elbow and pushing their arms away from their body. But in Kuk Sula and Duwai's art, once I get you, your hand comes and it gets locked right to the center of my chest first. So as soon as I got a finger or something to snap, it's right against my chest. But now my whole body is your fulcrum.
Yeah.
And your hands just used to do whatever I'm going to do to,
Yeah.
beep, beep,
You know what's funny? It's like I listen to what you say. I hear what you say. I listen to it, and my brain jumps to, oh, that reminds me of something Cass said about it, right? And then you'll say something, and I'll go, oh man, that reminds me of something. This other, which is why I said to you, there's so much left.
Yeah.
To discover.
Yeah. Even Moss, told me when he showed me his blocking stuff, right? He goes, everybody would tell me Moss could break your bones with a block. Mm-hmm. And I go, okay, well, he's a big, scary, strong dude. That makes sense. But he told me I could do it too when I was 14. And I'm going, okay, how? Moss would come in like this. And once it started to hit your wrist like this, he would small circle. So you come in and go, and it would do like a secondary loop, kind of a snap right on the bone. It hurt so freaking bad, man. I thought he broke my arm many times. And he would just touch me. And you could feel it be like, it's like that Goju Ryu crap, sometimes those guys, you're like, ow, right. Don't do that,
Yeah.
But yeah, I know I have so much I'd love to say. I think I'm getting some charts I'm going to put together and I'll send you them. So there's
I love that. I love that. Yeah.
I'm interested in growing the field from the point out. I hate grass, man. I don't want to be a black hole martial artist. I don't want to be the guy who's got such a big black hole that, grasping. Mm-hmm. I want to come from that point within my center first.
Right.
So if I can come there and I can do something and I feel like I'm coming from here, then I already know it's on the right road again. It's like almost having my perfect, mandala set up and I know my critical distance lines.
Yeah.
Well, if I can do that psychologically and also in here, then I've already stepped that up. Now, all I got to do is just kind of look and go, what's the real feeling here? I can see that the guy's got a lump in his back pocket. I can see that, all of a sudden it just dials in, man. And the funny thing is, when I was a bouncer, I never hit anyone first. Never hit anyone first. And I was able to always calm the situations to the point where I usually said, okay, come back in 2 weeks and I'll buy you a beer.
Yeah.
And I could get the people out and they go, dude, it looked like you were holding their hand and they walked out with you. I go, yeah, they did.
Yeah.
And so you don't even need to tell people, yeah, I fucked him up, man. You know, especially as a bouncer or something, that's the last thing you want everybody to know, because then they're going to be ready for it. I got the shit for them.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
you don't want that, man. So, you know, if you can do it in a way where people are, why am I going to be a warrior do kung fu anyway, man? I'm doing it for people. I'm a warrior for everyone. I'm not out to get rid of anyone or any race or any bullshit country, whatever, man. That's
Yeah.
not how I learned it. I learned it to take care of what's in front of me.
I'm gonna send you when we hang up. I'm gonna cut it out, and I'm gonna send you the clip of how G. Anthony opened up with the seminar we did last month here in Miami, because I was shocked, because I've only ever spent time with him in his garage, right?
Yeah.
But this was now more people and like a legitimate seminar setting.
Cool.
And he says this thing, and I'm like, I never thought of it that way. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm just going to send you the clip.
See, that's the stuff I love, man, because that's
Yeah.
the stuff that makes you grow inside. You go, wow.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Why are you doing this as an art? You might as well just say, okay, I'll just go get a gun.
Yep.
If I want to hurt people, you know, or
Yep.
a bigger truck. Too.
You know, one other thing I thought of that I forgot to mention it too. So Ron and I were training again today, and I was telling him, we have all heard Inasano say, if you get the technique, you get one thing. If you get the principle behind the technique, you get it all. But how many of his people do you see going out there and actualizing that? So when you said actual, right, I remembered that he and I had that little mini discussion. But everybody's heard it. But now, okay, show me the evidence of your putting that your teacher said into practice.
I agree 100%, because that's what I was saying to you. I watch a lot of the people practicing and stuff. Number one, their feet are floating. They're not rude. They don't have a good command of their lower bodies and how they're moving. And so it's like, well, I don't care what your upper body doing. If you can't move your lower body properly to be able to bridge gaps and do certain things with me, then you have no real expectation of being able to hurt somebody with your hands. You know, if you can't move your body properly with it. So I agree with you on that. And so Bob Remmer, now he's passed, I guess I could say this kind of we're at a seminar, and Tim Tackett and I and Bob are sitting there. Bob, he looks at Tim, he looks at me, he goes, only about 1% of these motherfuckers are going to get this. And I went, oh no.
Yeah.
And he was like, he wasn't trying to be mean or funny. He was just kind of like saying it straight out the way it was.
Yeah.
Which was, you know, I mean, it's not an art. Not every art can be done by every person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like a good musician or a good artist, or, you know, anything like that. So there's going to be people that are always going to be top of the cream of the pile, you know. But I think that with Kung Fu, it's such an the older I've been getting, the more I practice, it's so much inside that I don't even know how I could ever explain everything that I feel about it.
Right.
It's just too much me.
Right. Yes.
So I guess if it's in me, then I guess, you know, I still got work to do too.
That's it, man. That's it. All right. Let us end today on that note.
Well, I hope I didn't ramble on and bore you guys too much. And thank you for having me on.
Well, hey, look, if only 1% of them are going to get it.
Well, these are my little pre-sticks that I carry. I got so many little weapons that are made out of wood, and but I just tell them, I tell the police I play at Chinese drums and make puppets.
Ah.
And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you know.
Right.
And I act like some great.
So mine are just you know, like 5 inches from a 28-inch stick over the years, right? So I tell them that they're wrist exercisers for all the small muscles.
That's funny. That's my Kuk Soul weapon.
Ah,
And that's for the bone breaking and slamming and smashing, nose and stuff. And then I tell them it's my arthritis thing.
Right.
I get away with so much being old and looking like a crazy old white guy. Man, it's so screwed up.
Right. But okay, I got to ask you this though, because I never noticed it until this conversation. Have people ever said that you and Tackett are cut from the same cloth?
No, but we're both Scottish and stuff. And we both come from the same areas of where we lived and stuff and grew up in. So socially, I think that we have probably a lot of similarities,
Yeah.
But
I didn't see it until tonight.
I don't know. Everybody keeps, when they see picture, they go, is that your brother or something? I go, yeah, well, sort of. It's when I first met Tim, I couldn't grow hair on my face until I was 40 some years old because American Indian put it. So it just never was there. So I had this long hair sticking out, looked like Sideshow Bob on acid. It wasn't a good look, man. Albino Polynesian or something, it just wasn't good. So now I can get away with this stupid old man look, it's kind of cool.
Oh man.
But Jack, I got his very first books. I had the very first Black Whale magazine he wrote in, and I saw his books and I go, man, I got to get those Xing books because I had been told about by my family members and stuff. So I go, I had to get those. So I got the Xing books and I learned every single technique. Not only did I learn it, I learned how to do them in a fight.
Oh, wow.
And I told Tim that. He goes, I think you're about the only son of a bitch that ever learned to do it. We've even read him.
Right.
That's not true.
Yeah.
I love him so much. He's the best.
Yeah. I'm so happy that he, he put the picture of me and him at Cass's school, right? Right. And I'm like, oh man, right. I was so happy to see that because he really is something. Anyhow.
He truly cares about every single one of us, including you and other guys. Let me tell you, Bob and Tim, if they didn't like you, they tell you right straight out, hey, fuck off, get out of my face. I don't ever come back. They're straight out.
Yeah.
They would never do that. So if he shows you love, man, he means it.
Yeah.
It's an awesome thing, man. And
all right,
showing you love back, brother.
All right, my friend. Okay, we'll be in touch again.
Okay.
Right? And we'll see what we can do. So I'll send you. I just thought of another clip to send you. So if I don't do it tonight, I'll do it sometime tomorrow. But you'll see some stuff from me. All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, man. Have a great evening. Take care. All right. All right. How cool is that, huh? Right. You guys know where to hang out on Fridays at 6 p.m. Okay, so that was episode, where are we? 312 with Rob Roy MacGregor. If you guys have any questions or comments or whatever, go ahead and put them in there, and I'll have Rob take a look at it if we need to. You can support me and the show over at paypal.me/UnifiedMAMiami, paypal.me/UnifiedMAMiami. That's where you'll find the Jeet Kune Journey Volume 1, raw but edited version, paypal.me/UnifiedMAMiami. You can also support the show if you're on the YouTube. You look for the join link over on the YouTube, and you can see the different levels of membership. I can't find it here on my my display. Also at jkdrebel.com, if you click on the Rebel Gear link, that's where you'll see stuff like this, the official UMAA Kali JKD t-shirt, or what I call the JKD Notables t-shirt, or the 4 Tenets of Jeet Kune t-shirt, coffee mug, hoodie, sweatshirt, all that good stuff. But of course, the best thing you can do is to share this video and spread the word about the Jeet Kune dialogues. Upcoming seminars in February next year, Titans of JKD 4. Go to titansofjkd.com and all the preliminary information is there. I don't have a link for it, but on Sunday, we're doing another thing here with G. Anthony Joseph. So it's just a local Miami in-house thing. So nobody except people nearby in Florida can do that. So not to worry too much about that. But that's it. Ron Reagan and I are on the road for the next 2 Fridays. So I don't think I'm going to be able to put together a show for you. So don't miss me too much. But Wednesdays, we'll still be able to do the I Love Jeet Kune broadcast. So until the next episode, this is Dwight Woods, the JKD Rebel, signing off. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon. Take care.